Welcome back to the Quiet Mind Astrology Podcast. My name is Jeremy Devins, and today we'll talk about Jupiter going retrograde for about 6 months, what that means for you, how you can work with that energy, and we'll talk about the other transits happening this week as well here on the Friday forecast. If you want an email sent to you every week with the summary and more detailed notes about all of these transits, go to quietmindastrology.com, where you can sign up for free weekly horoscopes. You can get your free Vedic birth chart, and you can get the free monthly review process now. If you leave a review, an honest review on Apple Podcasts, I'll send you this monthly review process, which is great to do at the beginning of the month or anytime there's a new moon or full moon, if you want to kind of get clear on what's been going on, what to focus on in your life. Really helpful tool, really useful. I use it myself. I've used something like this for many years. So that's also at the link in the show notes or on the website. Go to quietmindastrology.com and you can get that free monthly review process. So hope you had a good full moon. It was a super moon and a blue moon, which I have amended my thoughts on thanks to talking to Kitty, a listener of the podcast. Thank you for having me reframe this thought about this. But the idea of a blue moon is that there's 2 full moons in 1 month, which only is possible because of the Gregorian calendar, which is just a way of choosing to divide the solar calendar. But if we had a lunar calendar, we'd have 13 months. They'd all be 28 days. They could all start on a Monday, end on Sunday every month. And that would have no blue moons because there'd be a lunar calendar and there would never be a full moon twice in a month. But so this idea of a blue moon is actually something I'm probably going to stop saying, as I'm always learning and growing as well, because it's really just kind of made up on how we measure time. And there's Hebrew, Arabic calendars, there's Chinese calendars. The Gregorian calendar we use in the West is just one way of choosing how to measure time. But it's not the only one, and it's just kind of arbitrary to say that a blue moon is actually that special when we're just syncing up with nature and watching the cycles of time. That's just one way of choosing to divide it. So I will no longer talk about a blue moon, but it was a super moon twice in the month of August. So yes, it was a big month. And with all the retrograde energy you all are going through, I've talked to so many people who are going through some very challenging stuff right now. And me personally, I lost 2 people close to me in my childhood. So a childhood friend I grew up with and an uncle who was very close to me in a way, and I didn't grow up with a father. So he was there a lot to help out with things with my mom and helped me make sure I had nice things and took care of me in some way as best he could, and just having this sort of loss in my life, which I know many of you experience in different ways, some of you more or less. These are always great times to just sort of reflect and appreciate what we have and to connect with the people that also knew those people and to share gratitude, special moments, reflections, help process and digest the grief of that. And with all the Cancer energy of the last month as well, I've been doing a lot of deep emotional work. And, my whole thing here, since a kid, I was like always interested in understanding the meaning and purpose of life and what makes people tick and why are we here, and to sort of look into the stars with this sort of mystery and curiosity about life, and to look at other people with this sort of curiosity of like, what are your gifts? Why are you here? Why are we here? And that's always been really inspiring and interesting to me. That's what led me to get into astrology and to do this work. And I've always been fascinated in those topics. So when someone comes to the end of their life like this, that's the end of that story. They still have an impact for many years afterwards and the people that they interacted with. But that's the end of the story of their lives. And it's just sort of interesting to pause and reflect and digest that. And at the end, it's just all the good stuff is what really matters. And to get to talk with my cousin, the son of this uncle of mine who passed away, there's ups and downs. He talks about how they fought a lot in the last several years, and it's a whole journey. But it's the good stuff that really we remember, and the character and the person. And both of these people had their ups and downs, but they were very authentic to themselves and very true to themselves, and everybody could feel that. And it's a beautiful thing, and there's a lasting impression left from who they were and how they chose to show up in their lives. And the good stuff really stands out, and that's what I really remember and how I really think of them, and all the moments we got to share together, and the grief of knowing that that will never happen again. Like there's no more of those moments to be had. And that sort of essence of that person, was here and now it's not anymore. And it's an important, part of this whole process of understanding ourselves and looking at our own lives, looking at other people's lives to better understand them, to appreciate what we have and appreciate this time that we have here. So I hope that, my sharing my experience inspires you to connect with people close to you, express your gratitude. We often wait to the end to express that gratitude, but we don't have to. And sometimes we can get stuck in the emotions or the negative stuff or the challenges and not see that bigger picture and see that perspective of, this is all going to be over pretty quickly for all of us. We're all here on a limited time, and we can express that gratitude and appreciation now while we still have that opportunity. So hopefully this inspires you to find that gratitude in yourself or the people close to you, and maybe you have a different perspective of the challenges, of the hardships that you may or may not be going through right now. Because I know with all the retrogrades, a lot of people are going through some challenges and delays and setbacks and slowdowns, and things maybe not going quite like you expect or like you might want them to go. But it is an opportunity to slow down and appreciate what we do have and appreciate each other. And I'm so grateful that I get to share this and that in some way helps other people. So if you're listening, I appreciate you. I'm grateful for you. And it really means a lot that I get to share this work, which I think is so valuable. It's been so helpful to me in my own path of not having a father and not having much growing up and needing to kind of make sense of it all and figure it all out. And my astrologer, my teacher, Matab, was extremely helpful in that and teaching me Vedic astrology and teaching me this path. So I'm honored and grateful that I get to share this in some way, hopefully helps you and the people around you and impacts your life in some positive way. So with all the retrogrades, until about the 15th of September, it's kind of a slow down, hang in there kind of energy. Don't try to start a bunch of new things. Don't need to rush into a bunch of things. Things that are in motion, great. Continue that motion. Continue making progress on it. Continue moving forward with it. But it is a good time to slow down and pause and reflect. I've mentioned this. I've been doing this whole deep relationship chronology, not just romantic relationships, but times of being single, times of friendships, significant relationships in my life. And just looking at the patterns, looking at how things started, how things ended, or what shifted, or what lessons were gained there. And still, if you're listening to this as it goes live, until Venus is really until December, Venus is going through some challenging transits and retracing all of its progress of the last 6 weeks, going backwards. Basically, if you want to do something like that, it is a good time to do it. And it can be relatively quick. I spent months on this, actually, going really deep and feeling each beat of it and going deeper into the emotions of it. So it is a great emotional healing kind of time overall. So I recommend exploring something like that. I mentioned going to this retreat last month as well, doing that kind of deeper meditation, deeper emotional work. If you're able to find time for this, highly recommended. It can be highly valuable now. And my whole approach as the person sharing this wisdom is I am the number one student of this as well. And I do all this for myself first, of what I wished existed, what I would love to know about, and how can I live in alignment with the transits going on as best I can. So everything I'm doing is looking at the transits and okay, how can I best work with that? What kind of things could I do this month to work with this? And I found the emotional healing work of the last month extremely helpful, very healing. A lot of emotional stuff shifted for me, a lot of big insights. And that continues throughout September as well, especially up to the 15th. So worth exploring, and then this Venus stuff really until end of November, November 29th. It's worth doing some deep emotional, relational kind of healing work. And if your exes come out of the woodwork and want to come back and start relationships, pause. This Venus retrograde time and the sort of window where we're still in that energy, not the best for starting relationships, not the best for rekindling romances. So take it easy, no rush on that. And if it's really meant to be, if it's really going to work out, it'll be there in the end of November when things clear up a lot. So no urgency, no scarcity, no worry about that. So that's kind of the overview of what's going on. I talked about the month of September in the last podcast. But the big thing happening this week will be the Jupiter retrograde, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Mars going to Hasta, Venus going direct, and upcoming on the 16th, Saturday, September 16th, I'll be hosting a live event. More details on that coming very soon, but you can go to quietmindastrology.com/mentorship to learn more about that and join the waitlist. There's a link in the show notes and an email if you get the weekly Friday forecast. But that will be coming up Saturday, September 16th. If you want to go deeper into your own studies, understanding your chart, understanding others, understanding transits more in depth, this is the place to be, Saturday, September 16th. And you can join the wait list now for more details coming very soon. So let's talk about, first of all, Mars in Hasta Nakshatra for 21 days on Saturday, September 2nd. If you're watching the video on YouTube, you'll see I've got the chart pulled up. I'm going to go through sign by sign for Jupiter retrograde, but right now I've got the Aries ascendant up there. But for everybody, Mars is in Hasta in the sign of Virgo from Saturday, September 2nd until 21 days later. Now, Mars, the warrior energy in Virgo, the healing, analytical energy, this is a powerful time for getting stuff done, for taking action, for being focused, and in particular around going back over things because of all the retrogrades. But if there's some place you want to step into more leadership, more authenticity, more authority, this is the time where you can really do that. Maybe you're reading a book about these topics. Maybe you're taking on more responsibility at work. Good time to be precise and have a lot of attention to detail. So any tasks that you need to do in the next month that require more attention to detail, this is a favorable time to do it, especially, again, going back over things. Good time where your communication can be improved. If there's important discussions you need to have to come back to, good time to do this. And you may feel more ambitious and more determined to get stuff done during this transit, particularly, again, getting stuff reassessed, reevaluated, revised, going back over things until the 15th especially, but it's going to continue with this retrograde energy through much of the end of the year, but it's really strong until the 15th. Now, you want to be careful in this transit of these 3 weeks to avoid any impulsive or hasty decision making. You could end up, especially with the retrogrades, having to redo all that. You want to be careful not to be too critical of yourself or others. Our self-talk is so important. It shapes how we show up in the world. And if there's a voice in your head that's really harsh on yourself, that's not how you would talk to a friend, that's important to do some work to become aware of that voice, you know. Even if you have it come up of like a quick judgment, like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. Even that kind of stuff, it can really add up and kind of shape our opinion of ourselves and shape our actions in the world and diminish our confidence and self-esteem. Small little things like that can really add up. So if you notice that, you know, don't add more judgment to it, but just be aware of it. Like, oh, it's interesting I would talk to myself like that. What's another way I could approach this? Because it is a quite, it can be critical energy, Mars and Hasta here, but we can use that to make critical decisions, to make important decisions where we need a lot of attention to detail. You may notice some restlessness at this time. That will come and go. Everything, it will come and go. This too shall pass. You may notice some drive to conflict or disputes, and if that comes up, maybe let cooler heads prevail, take a step back, cool off a bit. Some potential health issues related to hands, arms, and the nervous system. So that hasty energy is what can lead to this. So, just temper your actions. Don't need to rush into things. It's not an urgency kind of thing right now, but if that urgency is coming up, that's going to be leading to the more negative expressions of this. Now, on Sunday, September 3rd, Venus goes direct in Astrology Nakshatra. This is the end of the chapter of relationship lessons you've been working through over the past 6 weeks of this transit. And now Venus will retrace the part of the sky it was there. And you may be going over some of those same lessons, but with a new perspective. And you may find yourself like back in that pattern, and if you did not learn the lessons last time, you're going to repeat the pattern until you learn the lesson. As the whole thing, the whole game of life, lessons are repeated until learned, and then we get new lessons, and the same cycle continues at a new level. So hopefully you've learned some lessons here in this cycle with Venus going retrograde, and now you get to approach it in a new perspective as a new person with new insights and new lessons. And now the work, of course, is never done, and there's going to be layers and layers of this ongoing throughout our lives. But there can be new insights, new emotional work that can come up, new healing processes that you uncover. Great time to be doing some sort of deep healing work like meditation, astrology, kundalini yoga, tantra work, all this kind of deeper Ashlesha kind of work. It's the serpent energy and deep healing kind of work. It's very powerful. I was very fortunate to meet this incredible Mayan healer here in Mexico. This place I'm at is incredibly healing, really beautiful energy here, and getting to meet a lot of amazing healing kind of people. So that's part of my journey, my transits, my life, my dasha, where I'm at, going through that and really focusing on that kind of work more. But for everybody right now, with all this Ashlesha energy of the last month, and then Venus and Ashlesha, great time for doing some deep emotional healing in this last little bit of this process throughout September. Now, the big story for this week, of course, is Jupiter going retrograde in Ashwini Nakshatra at first in the sign of Aries. And I will be going sign by sign through this in a moment, but first I'll talk about the general stuff for everybody. Of course, this transit brings a reflective and introspective approach to how you gain knowledge and wisdom in your own personal growth path. Jupiter, the planet of expansion, protection, growth, and the sign of Aries, which has been this ambitious, driven, creative energy. Like you could start anything in 2023, but now it slows down. And now you go back and retrace your steps for the next several months, 118 days, to look back at what you've learned and learn from the mistakes or the lessons, the opportunities here. And I misspoke earlier saying 6 months. It's more like 4 months. This happens every year, so not a huge deal, but it's an opportunity to slow down on our growth and expansion and turn inward. It's a more introspective time. Great potential here for inner growth and self-improvement. It's an opportunity to revisit and refine your beliefs and philosophies. If there's any particular religion, faith, belief, or ideology that you want to learn more about or go deeper into, this is the time to do it. A great potential for bringing healing and rejuvenation to yourself and others. And the unfavorable side of this, there can be a propensity for skepticism and doubt, and there can be delays or challenges in educational pursuits, particularly higher education or things to do with philosophy or religion. There can be a struggle with rigid or outdated belief systems, which, as I've talked about a lot on the podcast, recently on my Instagram. If you're not following me on Instagram, I have really enjoyed posting a lot of stories over the last month. I'm very active there now on Instagram, Quiet Mind Astrology. But we are going through this Pluto transit, Pluto return for the United States since 2020. I've talked about this a lot over the last 3 years. And this particularly right now with the Jupiter retrograde as well, all the other retrogrades, Saturn included, the structures of society, of Western civilization, are being tested a lot. And it's just more evident than ever how outdated they are and how much a revolution is needed. Now, this does not need to be a violent or dramatic revolution, but that is the energy. That's the transit we're going through, revolutionary times. Just like in 1776, around the time of the American and French revolutions, the last time Pluto was here in Capricorn. It's about a 250-year cycle with the Pluto return, and that's about how long, usually, society, civilization has its dominance, and that's been the case with the United States. And all throughout history, Ray Dalio's book on this recently came out last year or so, is all about the world order and when countries become dominant and then they lose that dominance. It's a natural cycle. The U.S. is losing its dominance in the world powers, and that's part of the transits here. And, you know, a lot of the things coming out, like all these politicians, how old they are, Now, there's more people over 70 than ever before in the history of the United States in power, in political power, and that's just not in touch with the majority of society. And there's a whole lot of issues with that. Outside of my depth, outside of my pay grade, I'm not involved in politics myself, but I can see these political patterns. And if you are involved in politics, hopefully leading to some sort of policy change and more influence of, with technology the way it is now, the whole political system is completely outdated. And there are some smaller countries and places in the world that are really embracing technology, because we could have a completely different political system at this point, and we will by the end of this transit in 2039, when Pluto finishes its Capricorn stay. So that's coming, but on a smaller level, zooming back into this week and this coming 4 months, Jupiter retrograde is about going back over these ways that we are involved with politics or beliefs or values or ethics, and what we really do value, what we want to focus on, and how we can influence change in some small way. Now, there can be a tendency to overlook opportunities during this time, so you might be overthinking things, getting caught in your head, and missing out on opportunities. And there's a potential for health issues related to the thighs or lower body, or any sort of swelling or inflammation as well. So be mindful of those. Now, let's look at the individual stuff. So your rising and your moon sign, how does this transit affect you? What can you do to work with it? We'll go through each sign, starting with Aries, ending with Pisces. A little bit briefly here, so let's kind of keep it high level and the main things to focus on for each rising and moon sign and what house it's being affected. I'm going to click through the ascendants as you'll see and we go on here. Listen to your rising and moon. Starting with Aries, this Jupiter retrograde is in your first house. This is a profound period of introspection. It's in a Kendra house. It's going to have a huge impact on your life. It's going to affect you more than almost anyone else. So you're encouraged to revisit and refine your sense of self-identity and personal philosophy. This introspection can lead to a more authentic expression of yourself, and you may question your beliefs and aspirations, seeking a deeper understanding of your life's purpose. Powerful, powerful transit for you. Taurus, rising and moon. This is in your 12th house here. During this retrograde, Jupiter prompts you to turn inward, and it's a time to contemplate your spiritual beliefs and inner growth. However, be cautious not to slip into escapism or self-deception. You might want to delve into meditation, dream analysis, or spiritual practices to gain deeper insights into your subconscious mind. This can be deeply healing. And if you've been traveling, you may now have less travel. And there may be some restrictions around travel as far as moving around the world, but more time inward, traveling inward into the astral 5th, 6th, 7th dimensions, into the spiritual realm. Now, Gemini ascendant and moon, Jupiter retrograde is in Aries in your 11th house, highlighting your social networks and long-term goals. You may want to return to some social networks and friends that you've connected with in the past, and you're encouraged to revisit your connections and reconsider their significance in your life. And you may be going back to old communities that you've been part of. You might want to seek more meaningful and purposeful relationships within your social circles and reevaluate your own aspirations and dreams for the future. And the wealth that you're gaining from the work that you do, you may want to return to ways that you've increased wealth in the past that you could reevaluate, improve your finances, and move forward, increasing wealth in the future. For Cancer, ascendant, and moon, your career path and public image come under scrutiny during this period, and you may need to reassess and reevaluate how you've shown up in the workplace or in places where you're under the spotlight. And you can reconsider your professional life and how it aligns with your values and your beliefs. And if it's in alignment, you may need to reassess your career path a little bit to make it more in alignment with your values. It's an excellent time for reassessing your goals overall and finding more authenticity in your public persona and in the workplace, and making adjustments as needed. For Leo, ascendant, and moon, this is in your 9th house. Jupiter here prompts a review of higher education, and maybe you want to go back to old textbooks, old philosophies, old studies, old religion that you've looked at in the past, old teachers that you've worked with, review your notes, review the lessons you've learned, and go deeper into introspection and integrating, digesting those things. And you're encouraged to explore deeper aspects of these areas. And maybe you want to travel. This could be a potentially favorable time for travel, but going back to places that you've been to before. And any sort of philosophical studies as well, like religious travel or spiritual travel for going to sacred sites or things like this. And you may want to go deeper into introspection and have a deeper sense of like your purpose in life and why you're here. You can reflect on your beliefs and consider furthering your knowledge through courses, trainings, higher education, or travel experiences. For Virgo Ascendant and Moon, this is in your 8th house, and this shines a light on shared resources, especially if you're in marriage or partnerships. The resources there, inheritances, if you have them or not, and your own psychological depths and studies, your own transformational path that you've been on. You're going to go deeper into that and into the intricacies of these matters. Exercise caution with your financial decisions because 8th house here is a Dushana house. It can represent some losses, and it's a time of slowing down, not expanding your expenses on personal growth, but slowing down, sort of contraction, taking more attention inward. But you can have deep insights into your own motivations and unconscious patterns, working towards greater emotional and financial stability. So if it's something you're going back to, could be a good investment. If it's something completely new, maybe not. So going deeper into your own transformational work, and it should contribute to your own transformation as well. Libra, Ascendant and Moon. This is affecting your 7th house of partnerships and relationships, which are in focus during this time. It's time to reevaluate the dynamics in your relationships, how you're showing up, who you are, who you've become in relationships, and if that is in alignment for you anymore. You want to aim to improve your communication, your collaboration, and mutual understanding with your significant others. This can bring about a deeper connection and bond with them and greater growth going forward at the end of this transit. For Scorpio Ascendant and Moon, this is over your 6th house, governing your daily routines, health, and work. Now, this retrograde inspires you to take a closer look at your daily habits and wellness practices, and if they are in alignment for you, and consider making adjustments to enhance your overall well-being physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. And you may want to go deeper into an old health regime that you've done in the past and come back to it, and through that can have a really profound healing experience. This can be deeply healing for you. Maybe some old health issues come up as well that need to be addressed, but focusing on your daily health routines and things that worked well in the past can really help this be a positive transit. For Sag, Ascendant, and Moon, this transit is over your 5th house, Jupiter going retrograde. In creative projects, hobbies, and love affairs are under review at this time. And this is overall a very, very favorable transit for you. Your Ascendant Lord in the 5th house, which is a Lakshmi Bhava, a house of fortune, wealth, auspicious events for you. Wonderful. So a great time to review where you've had good fortune and wealth and prosperity in the past, in creative projects and pursuits with children, if you have them, or in romance and relationships as well. And through this, you can really channel your passion and self-expression in positive ways. If you're in the entertainment fields at all, this can be a very creative and prolific time for you, where you go back to finish up old projects, and then they can come forward into the world after this transit ends. Great time to refine your artistic talents and explore new avenues for creative growth. For Capricorn Ascendant and Moon, this transit is over your 4th house, reflecting on your home life, your family dynamics, and personal values during this retrograde time. If you have any property, investments, cars, land, you may need to go back to tending that and review some issues with those things that need more attention. It's a time where you can seek greater emotional fulfillment within your domestic home life, and you want to consider making improvements to your living environment. Great time for doing some home renovation and upgrades, finishing old projects. This period encourages you to nurture your inner foundations and find security in your core values. For Aquarius Ascendant and Moon, this is over your 3rd house, and communication skills, learning projects, and short-term goals come into focus at this time. If there's an old hobby that you really valued and want to go back to, this is the time to do it. You can take this opportunity to review your methods of expression and seek clarity and effectiveness in your communication. If you've been wanting to improve your communication or language, learn languages or something like this is the time to do that. You can revisit learning initiatives and reevaluate your short-term objectives for greater success. Break down your big picture goals into smaller chunks, and you can make a lot of progress during this time. For Pisces Ascendant and Moon, during this retrograde, financial matters and self-worth are at the forefront, as well as family matters and family assets. Contemplate your relationship with money, possessions, and resources, as you may need to reevaluate some issues here and look at them in a new perspective. You can align your financial decisions with your evolving values and work on boosting your self-esteem and self-reliance for a more secure future. Good time to reevaluate your investments, maybe talk to a financial advisor, family planning. These kind of things are more at the forefront. Good time to go back to reevaluate them. If you're not involved in any of those kind of things, this could be more about expressing yourself on a deeper level and finding your voice at a deeper level, because second house represents your voice as well. So hopefully this gives you some perspective of how to work with this Jupiter retrograde transit. It's an awesome opportunity to go deeper within, to have some deeper healing and insights about yourself, and move forward at the end of this transit with huge potential for expansion and growth, because Jupiter remains in Aries until early 2024. So after the end of this transit and into the next year, you can begin to create in a new way, express yourself at a deeper level, and Jupiter in Aries is a powerful creative energy to do that. So as always, thank you for listening. If you enjoy the podcast, take a moment to leave an honest review on Apple Podcasts. You can also get our free monthly review process for doing so, where you can evaluate your past month. Highly, highly, highly recommend doing this. It is one of the most valuable things I do every month. I love it. I learn so much about myself, and it gives me so much clarity of how I want to move forward in the next month. So at the beginning of the month here, I highly recommend you do this. Go to quietmindastrology.com/monthly review. You can get that free monthly review process. And if you don't have your free birth chart, get that now. If you want to get the free Friday forecast to your inbox every week, you can get that there as well. And then put it on your calendar. Saturday, September 16th, a special live event is coming up where you can go deeper into your astrology studies. That's the best way to work with me deeper beyond this podcast right now this month, as I am booked through the month for readings, but that will be a great way to work with me this month. Thank you for listening. Look forward to sharing more with you next time on the Quiet Mind Astrology Podcast.